it was a gun.
I'm not voting.
If we want to build our nation.
The problem with the Somalians.
Just want to experience something else than a black man.
Move on, move
Can't be like a horse with blinkers on.
Honestly say, I was about to have sex and then I pulled
crap,
up.
but it's nice.
I'm Anastasia. I'm 22 years old. I'm also a final year law student at UCT, and I'm particularly interested in pursuing a career in social justice.
My name is Kelly Kowalski. I'm 23 years old. I've lived in Cape Town my whole life, and I'm a final year law student at UCT.
My name is Khali Chirwa. I am from Pretoria originally. I'm 23 years of age, and I am a risk and compliance junior analyst.
My name is Lauren. I'm 22, and I've been lucky enough to live in Cape Town my whole life, and I'm also a student.
Hi, my name is Cece. I'm born and bred Cape Townian. I'm 23, and I'm busy doing honours in marketing and international marketing.
My name's Ziad Solomon. I'm from Cape Town and I'm 21. I'm a filmmaker, a DJ, and I'm studying public relations this year.
I am extremely hopeful about the future of this country. While I do recognize that South Africa has a lot to work on in terms of politics, there are huge problems with unemployment, especially amongst the youth. But I do believe that we are making strides in the right direction. And I do think that we need to bear in mind that we have only just reached 20 years of democracy, so we still have a far way to go. But I'm very, very passionate about this country, and I do believe that we will thrive.
Don't you guys feel that people rely too much on the government to create jobs? Because I don't see how the government can create jobs, because then everyone's going to be government workers. Like,
I absolutely agree.
I find it a bit weird.
More to the point that it's one thing to put everything on the government, but we forget we choose the government. We are the ones who choose the government, and more importantly, we're the ones who are responsible for telling the government where they're going wrong, and more importantly, we have the power to suggest things. I mean, we have a constitution that allows for participation, and, you know, the courts have defined participation as more than just your vote. And so with that, I think every decision that's made, you have a right to request reasons for that decision. You have a right to ask for explanations. You have a right to have any decision made justified to you. So I think that has a huge part to play, and I don't think that young people are actually using that effectively at all.
That's true, because on that note, I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine, and he was telling me that he thinks everything is hopeless and he doesn't have like a vision for this country, and even on top of that, he's not gonna vote. And I thought, that's what's wrong with this country right now, because the youth feel really discouraged to take a stand and do something for themselves, because it's really not just about the government. We can tell the government, like, we can put a stand and like tell them what we want and how we want things to be done. So it really is up to us.
One side is to hold the government accountable, but we all have to realize that we have a civil duty ourselves, and that we can, within ourselves, make a change. We can start businesses, we can become entrepreneurs. I think that we have to look at the bigger picture, that it's not just simply about the government and the citizens, but it's citizens and citizens. And I think that we lose sight of that. So when people are fed up with the country and they want to run off, that's not helping the problem at all. We're looking at the problems, poking at them without coming up with solutions ourselves.
We're all saying really academic things here and kind of human capital and all of that, but there are a lot of other privileged South Africans who really don't care or about the academic side of things or the political side of things. And I just think it's a lot of different experiences growing up in South Africa, and we are struggling to reconcile that, not even from a racial point of view or a class point of view, just a South African experience point of view.
Yeah. I think it also differs by, province by province, because I mean, us in Cape Town, we are so privileged, and you compare people who grew up in the Eastern Cape, in the rurals, like, it's completely different, and it's not about that they were poor, it's just it's where they grew up, and the education system is bad overall.
I wake up every morning and I go, my goodness, how ridiculously lucky is that? But it's so hard to deal with the fact that it's not like that for everyone, and it's, and if we want to go academic again, the whole idea that, yeah, we have a right, social rights, and we have constitutional rights, and we have all different kinds of rights, and it's difficult to achieve all of those at the basic level when there's no food. And how do we as people who've got food and want to pursue high interest, like sit around in a little cafe and observatory and drink red wine and talk about the future, deal with the fact that there are a lot of people who really don't care because they want a meal tomorrow, and that's huge, and it's basic, and it's something we don't have an answer to.
But I think that how we perceive the future of the country has everything to do with our class, it has everything to do with our race, and it definitely has everything to do with our outlooks, whether they be from a more academic point of view or someone who's on the street. I think that that is what makes South Africa interesting, and that is actually what creates this tension within South Africa, is that those things do matter. And I think that we as more educated young South Africans need to realize that not everyone is like us, and we need to teach them, yes, there is a constitution. Just because it is something that is a bit further from what they're experiencing, I don't think that we should not explain to them that this is what we have, because that's how those rights get realized.
As a black person, I'm very privileged. I didn't grow up in the rural area. I grew up in a nice suburb in Constantia. I went to good schools. I've had a good education, and I get that, I definitely do. But I do think that there are people out there, well, majority of South Africa is black. We have to remember that. And race is not going away. Race is a big thing, and lots of people like to push under the rug, and they think, well, it's new South Africa, it's democratic. We don't see race.
I think it's
we
the
see
stupidest
race.
thing when people say, oh, racism isn't alive anymore. No
Exactly.
more race. Rainbow nation. It's like, no, it's not real. Like,
we see race everywhere. It's an everyday thing. I mean, whether or not you're aware of it is different, but it's all around us, and it's not going to go away, and we shouldn't try and make it go away. It's just the way it's always going to be.
And obviously, we're not looking at race to hold certain people accountable and say this is your fault, etc., etc. But also, on the other hand, I think we need to realize that there is something called white privilege. And white privilege is your average young white South African who can say this about the government, that about the government, this about poor people, not do anything about it. It's just by the mere fact that you are white and that you are privileged. And that's why I think some people have such negative views about things like affirmative action. I am the first to say that we need those policies.
I don't want to say I've been naive, but I think I've made the conscious effort to, I know it's there, but I'm making the conscious effort to not think about it, because that way my life is simpler. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm running my own race. I'm not trying to be affected by everything and all these racial issues. Call it naive if you want, but it makes my life that much better. Because if I'm just going to go around thinking, oh, no, because I'm black, this happened. No, maybe that person had a bad day. Maybe, but I'm just not going to let it affect my life. I don't want it to, so I won't let it. So
that's just different people who are denying the fact that it, and people that are actually trying to accept it and just like make it part of their life. And it's not like a major part of their life, but it's just there. It's just we live with it.
There's a difference between denial and being aware, but not internalizing it.
Yes, because that's exactly what's doing. I'm not denying it. It's there, but I am working my way around it. Yeah,
that phrase kills me.
Moving on. We can't move on. You can't move on. It's not.
I don't mean like move on and forget it. I mean obviously move on and accept and like
Basically, don't let it hamper your life.
So you want to hold on?
You can't just move on. Like, right? Nothing's changed. Well, things have changed, but nothing's really changed. So if someone comes up to you and they go, oh, well, you must just move on, I'm going to give...
the top 5% of South Africans are black. I mean, in terms of being wealthy, nothing's changed.
And my friends and I were actually having a discussion, like outside, sitting, having a few glasses of wine at my house, and they were all like, we were all saying, oh, so what you doing next year when you graduate, all that stuff. And they're like, oh no, I'm going to do this, and Kelly, what about you? And I said, oh, I don't know, because I've applied to so many places, I haven't got a job. And then they were like, somebody went under their breath, affirmative action. And actually, my mother and I both looked at them and they were like, no, but yes, absolutely. And I said, you know what, I don't have a job lined up. I probably won't have one for a while, but that's actually as it should be, you know. If I haven't worked hard enough to get into the quota system, well, you know, maybe I need to just pull my finger up my butt and work harder. I shouldn't go and complain about affirmative action, because quite frankly,
it's relative.
I mean, nobody will ever know why you do or don't get a job, because obviously they're not, you know, you never know. Yeah. But even if the reason I'm not getting a job is affirmative action, that doesn't make me lose any sleep at night, because quite frankly, as Anna says, just by virtue of being white, there's a perception of me that doesn't necessarily fall on someone who's black. And just by virtue of that fact alone, it's perfectly acceptable that I should struggle to find work.
We are born in a generation where we have the opportunity to see each other as equal, and that's not actually what happens. And I myself have been victim to racism, and I think that we need to now look at, okay, so some people are racist, but what do we do when we are confronted with these situations? Do we walk away and say, okay, whatever, let that person be? Do we stand up for ourselves? I think that's important. It's like, what do we actually do when that happens?
I have to be honest, there was a comment, Marikana happened, which is like not even in a complacent way, but that, I mean, down here in the Cape, it was kind of Marikana happened, and that's terrible, but Marikana happened. That is almost a little bit the attitude on, and to be honest, issues like Marikana on social media certainly don't get the coverage that something like, as said, the Oscar trial.
Our older generations, that was the way you demonstrate. You march to Parliament, you march to wherever you need to be, and everyone joins in, and we're all part of it, and that's great. But I don't think it'll be, it's effective, we've seen it's effective. But amongst the youth, I don't think so.
If you were black and you wanted to fight apartheid, the thing was, it was toy, protest, cause chaos. Even Mandela at the end was saying, we need to fight, we need violence to fight violence. And that's an attitude that maybe in certain aspects of society needs to be toned down, where that's not the way anymore. We now have these structures, we now have a constitution, we don't burn tires and run through the main street in town anymore.
So if I was to organize a political rally or anything about the secrecy bill, let's all march to Parliament, I will guarantee you now, I will definitely get 10,000 likes. Happy, everyone's joining, but no one will pitch on the day.
No. The privileged white people who aren't doing anything, who like it. So it's kind of, we were used to not doing nothing, we're used to going to school and doing this and talking about it in an academic way, and there's a social divide in that those who have nothing are used to being encouraged to use violence. So there's somehow reconciling action in a more kind of, we need more action from certain aspects of society and more controlled action from other things of society.
It's not going to be done until you do it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And we're not doing it, so that's why we're going to be sitting here and saying and discussing it, but no one's doing it. That's the problem.
I wake up every morning and I go to work for myself, okay? And then I read the paper to find that it's being used elsewhere doing some other things. Yes, I care. You know, fire pools and crowds and things, but I care. It's my money, so it's not that it's my anything that's tax related. Oh, honey, I care.
I can like a Facebook page, I think it's a good idea, but I'm going to still have running water and a toilet in the morning. If you don't have a toilet in the morning, then you're driven to desperation. So obviously they're going to be different people who are going to take different measures and relative to how you're feeling. Once it's your that's the whole problem, is reconciling your individual interests with the country's interests and how that's going to affect you. It's always that line.
It always is the choice between your own self-interest and the interest of the greater good.
Yeah. I really feel that people actually just need to care more about each other.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. That's like, to simplify it really, people just need to care about each other instead of just caring about themselves.
Ultimately, like, it's starting with us, and it really aggravates me when people say nothing can be done. Really does.
But at the same time, there's also the challenge of finding your niche and what to do. So you might be drawn towards outreach, but there are a lot of people I know who just struggle with that interpersonal action. It's not that they don't care, it's not that they're apathetic to people's plight, but they personally don't know how to interact with someone on a social level.
Then they can get involved in the administrative side.
As one of our lecturers said, is that we're all going to be responsible for our own scummification.
Absolutely.
Everyone knows the reality of South Africa. It doesn't matter if you're a lawyer or a teacher. You can take some of your salary and you can give it to the poor. You can do something. Everyone has the ability to do something.
The only way that we can actually ensure survival and progress of every human being is universal human compassion, I think. And I think that, as you say, an elitist perspective isn't the way forward. It's about compassion, basic compassion, because if somebody is fed, as you say, they're not going to vote based on old loyalties, because they'll be you can't be educated if you don't have shelter, food, all those kinds of things. And you can't get that purely by relying on the government, which means that you have to rely on your fellow citizens as well.
My dream is to be happy and just to help people to understand that they need to care more in the world and just to care about each other.
My dream is to live in a free and equal South Africa amongst people of equal economic freedom.
My dream is simple, it's to be happy, but I know that part of that is being South African, and that is a lot less simple.
My dream is beyond me. My dream is to be bigger and better than I am today, bigger for the country and just bigger.
My dream is a moral world where we all have a guarantee of morality, and I believe that the only guarantee of morality is universal human compassion.
My dream is to wake up in a South Africa where race is not seen, where we have equality, and where every single South African feels that they deserve to be here and that they are inspired to do better.